Good.
14.
Yeah, he's getting better all the time.
Okay, I'm in King 16.
Great
Second
reader.
King
A
16.
great artist.
Oh, so King
He
But
said
yeah,
walking
so that's
slow and
now when he
talking
sits
fast.
with me, I'm gonna have him.
He didn't
sing
tell you
with
that. I
us.
beat him on the
As long as I
bike
keep
tread.
it low for him, follow it low with
you
my
did?
finger.
Yeah.
He goes right into it. It's pretty cool.
Not quite.
Are we ready to
Hi,
start?
Don.
Hi there.
Yes.
Hello, Internet. Internet. All right. So we're going to go to Grandpa's prayer book for our prayer this evening. Gracious God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, as this day draws to its close, I appear before Thee with thanksgiving, mindful of the many blessings which I have received from Thy bountiful hand. Thou hast been my refuge and fortress. No evil has befallen me, no plague has come nigh unto my dwelling. In humility I pray Thee, forgive me my many transgressions, my sinful desires and longings, my lack of zeal and devotion for Thy cause. Cover whatever I have done amiss with the garment of the righteousness prepared by my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Grant that I may ever seek safety in His sacred wounds. This night, send Thy holy angels for my protection. I implore Thee to encompass with Thy mercy all my fellow men, and to help them in their every need. Grant them the best of all gifts, Thy Holy Spirit, that they may be led to life everlasting. Hear me for the sake of the Redeemer. Amen.
Amen.
still confusing. You came to 16 and you're up to 27.
Yeah, but I'm on Second Chronicles. Here's Kings.
Okay.
Looks like everything's working.
Now I'm going to confuse you even more.
Yeah.
In the Hebrew Bible, it's 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Samuel. There is no 1st and 2nd Kings.
That's right. It's all a book of history.
Yep. All right. Well, good evening, everybody.
Yes.
We're picking back up where we left off last time. So we started to examine the different kings that were in power during Isaiah's ministry. Okay, and so we took a look at the first two of them, and so in that we had King Uzziah. What did we think of King Uzziah? Good guy, bad guy, what?
He was good.
Decent, but he's still.
Up until the end, right? He kind of went a wrong direction at the end, where he thought he was pretty hot stuff and decided to go and play the role
Yeah.
of priest for a while and ended up getting leprosy
Yeah.
as a judgment on it. His son was Jotham, and he was also a decent king. There were still some things he didn't end the pagan practices that were around, but at least he himself was faithful. Okay.
He didn't care what anybody else did. As long as he was faithful, he was okay.
Well, yeah. So he didn't really enforce things, right? So that this was one of the problems that was going on during this time, right? But other than that, he was a good king, just like his father was, up until his father went and did something dumb.
Yeah.
But otherwise, they were both good kings. Now we come to Ahaz. Ahaz is a different story. So we've got a bit of reading for today, and I'd like to read through it because how often do people sit down and go, I think I'm going to read 2 Kings today? Probably doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
So we're going to go through and we're going to read it, and then we'll discuss it a little bit. So we're on chapter 16 of 2 Kings, and what we'll do is we'll go around the table with it and we'll read through chapter 16, and then we'll come back and discuss it a little bit, and then we'll continue into 17 as well, because he gets way more press than his predecessors did. So I'll start us out, and we will go clockwise around the table. and we'll each take a verse and keep going around. Are we all ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right, I'll start us out. In the 17th year of Pekah, the son of Remaliah, Ahaz, the son of Jotham, king of Judah, began to reign.
Ahaz was 20 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. And he did not do what was right in the eyes of the Lord his God, as his father David had done.
But he walked in the way of the kings of Israel. He even burned his son as an offering, according to the despicable practices of the nation whom the Lord drove out before the people of Israel.
And he sacrificed and burned incense on the high places, on the hills, and under every green tree.
Then Rezin, king of Aram, and Pekah, son of Remaliah, king of Israel, marched up to fight against Jerusalem and besieged Ahaz, but they could not overpower him.
At that time, Rezin, the king of Syria, recovered Elath for Syria and drove the men of Judah from Elath, and the Edomites came to Elath, where they dwell to this day.
Ahaz sent messages to say to Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, I am your servant and vassal. Come up and save me out of the land of the king of Aram and of the king of Israel, who are attacking me.
Ahaz also took the silver and gold that was found in the house of the Lord, and in the treasures of the king's house, and sent a present to the king of Assyria.
And the king of Assyria listened to him. The king of Assyria marched up against Damascus and took it, carrying its people captive to Kir, and he killed Rezin.
When King Ahaz went to Damascus to meet Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, he saw the altar that was in Damascus. And the King Ahaz sent to Uriah the priest a model of the altar and its pattern, exact in all details. Number 11. Mm-hmm.
And Uriah the priest built an altar according to all that King Ahaz had sent from Damascus. So Uriah the priest made it before King Ahaz came from Damascus.
When the king came back from Damascus and saw the altar, he approached it and presented offerings on it.
And burned his burnt offering and his grain offering, and poured his drink offering, and threw the blood of his peace offering on the altar.
The bronze altar that stood before the Lord he brought from the front of the temple, from between the new altar and the temple of the Lord, and put it on the north side of the new altar.
And King Ahaz commanded Uriah the priest, saying, On the great altar burn the morning burnt offering, and the evening grain offering, and the king's burnt offering, and his grain offering, with the burnt offering of all the people of the land, and their grain offering, and their drink offering. And throw on it all the blood of the burnt offering, and all the blood of the sacrifice. But the bronze altar shall be for me to inquire by.
Uriah the priest did all this as King Ahaz commanded.
And King Ahaz cut off the flames of the stands and removed the basin from them, and he took down the sea from off the bronze oxen that were under it and put it on a stone pedestal.
Also removed from Sabbath pavilion which they had built in the temple, and removed the king's outer entrance from the house of the Lord, and an account of the king of Assyria.
As for the other events of the reign of Ahaz and what he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Judah?
And Ahaz slept with his fathers, and was buried with his fathers in the city of David. And Hezekiah his son reigned in his place.
Okay. So right from the beginning, as it's kind of starts in the same way as all the other all the other accounts of the kings begin, but we're told right from the beginning that something's wrong. What's the difference between Ahaz and all the others right off the bat?
He joined in.
Yeah.
We did join in, yeah. But,
He did not do what was right in
Oh.
the sight of the Lord.
all right, so all the others that we've looked at so far, the very first thing that we're told is that they were good kings in the eyes of the Lord, right? They didn't always make good choices. They didn't always do right things, but it was still that they were faithful.
Mhm.
They did what was right in the eyes of the Lord. Not Ahaz. Ahaz is an unbelieving king.
Mhm.
He is a pagan king, ruling even though he's from the same line. He's essentially a pagan king.
Mhm.
Okay, so what are some of the things that God says? I despise Ahaz.
Mhm.
He burned his son as an offering.
He murdered his own children as an offering on a pagan altar.
Yeah.
Right, and if you look at Chronicles, Kings it says his son, but Chronicles actually gives a suggestion that there may have been more. There may have been more. He was killing his own children, sacrificing his own children to pagan gods.
Mhm.
What else was he doing that was not right? I mean, that's the big one, right? That sin is the exact sin that God said that the Canaanites must be driven out of the land of that the Israelites were to take possession of. That was the sin that God said, I will not abide by this. They cannot remain with you in this land. You must remove them from this land. And he gave them 400 years to get out before the Israelites came in. And when they did, they were supposed to clean house for this exact reason, that this is what they were doing.
Mhm.
And then what happens? They do not remove these people from the land, and they do not remove the practices from the land. And the next thing you know is that a couple generations pass, and Israel's own kings, technically Judah's own kings, are killing their children on altars.
Who's the god of Moloch?
Yeah, well, yes. Usually
The
it's,
others.
it's Moloch, but
Chemosh
there's
and
others. Yeah, Chemosh
And Baal.
would be another one. There were quite a few. This was sadly a pretty common practice.
What did they accomplish by that?
Well, the bigger the sacrifice, the better the reward.
So they
How
thought.
could they be rewarded for such a terrible thing?
Uh-huh. That's the thing.
Well, that's just it. Is that it was the bigger their sacrifice, they thought that the more power that they would have, the more influence over their deity they would have,
Yeah.
and so
How long
Ahaz
did
was
the kingdom last?
Huh?
How long did that kingdom last that they were able to do those things?
Well, Ahaz was king for
20 years.
well, it was 20 years when he took over.
Oh,
He
yeah,
reigned for
16
16.
years.
So the same as those who came before him. They were all around like 16 years. Well, Uzziah reigned longer, and so did Hezekiah. But he reigned. So he reigned the same length as his father Jotham. But
Look, in my book, it looks like it was about 20 years. From 735 to 715.
if you're looking at a timeline,
Yeah, in the very first beginning of Kings, there is a timeline of kings and prophets.
yeah. But I'm looking at verse 2 that says, "And he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem."
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well then they've got it wrong here.
Yep.
They need to fix that.
They might.
Okay, he also made offerings at pagan altars.
Yep.
That's where they made all their sacrifices.
Yep.
All right. So where were the people of God supposed to be making their sacrifices?
In the temple.
In the temple.
In the temple. And in the north, they were doing this. They were going to every tree and every high place, and they were doing these things. And so basically, he's doing the same as what the northern kingdom was doing. But there's a difference. He actually lived in Jerusalem.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
but this just goes to show he is not a believing king.
Mhm.
He is a pagan king. His actions are louder than his bloodline. He is a pagan king. Okay? All right. Well, as he's doing these things, there's a little bit of judgment that's going on too. And so you have this as in Chronicles kind of flat out says that this is done as a judgment against the actions of Ahaz. That what's going on in the land.
A couple kings are trying to make a war against him.
All right. So who are the kings that are making war against him?
Syria and Remaliah.
They don't like the idea that it's killing people.
Yeah, and the king of Israel. Yeah. Syria and the king of Israel.
All right. So
Northern kingdom.
the northern kingdom.
Syria.
You have you have their own relatives coming in and attacking them and taking land. Okay. And in fact, they actually do lose some of the land, and after the Syrians chase out Judah, then you do have the Edomites that come in,
Yeah.
right? So these are the descendants of Esau, and they're coming back into the land, and they take it over, and they remain there. Okay, so Ahaz is actually able to stop their progress,
Mhm.
but he wants revenge, and he knows he doesn't have the strength to do it. He doesn't have the strength to go back and fight back against them. He was able to keep them from taking over the whole country, but he doesn't have the ability to fight back. So who does he turn to?
King of Assyria.
The king of Assyria. Now, the Assyrians were the big baddies of the time.
Mhm.
They are a massive empire. They are bloodthirsty. They are violent, and they are looking for an excuse to take more land. And so they do.
Okay, I have a question. So there are two kings of Syria, Rezin and Tiglath-Pileser?
No.
Because
No.
verse
Syria
5.
and Assyria.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Sorry. Wake up, Linda.
Did I say it wrong?
No,
Okay.
I was just looking at it wrong.
Yeah, Syria and Assyria.
Assyria. Okay.
Right? So think to Jonah, right? It's around the same time as Jonah. And what did Jonah think about the Assyrians?
Down with the Assyrians. Let them burn with God's wrath.
Yeah. Or as our conversation the other day, they were, according to VeggieTales, they're the fish slappers.
Yeah.
And they basically what it is that if you're not strong enough, you find somebody bigger and stronger, and have them fight the battle for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Ahaz does. And how did he gain Assyria's attention to come and help?
Well, he said, "I'm your servant," but then I think he also gave him,
He looted the temple.
looted the temple, to give him the,
He raided the temple of its treasures,
Mm.
and he also emptied the treasuries, all to buy influence with Assyria.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also, look at the language that it says, he also put Judah under their control.
Yeah.
He basically sacrificed the nation to the Assyrians.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not strong enough to fight these guys. You take over, you fight them, and we will be servants to you.
Mm-hmm.
They're a vassal state at this point. They've sworn fealty to the Assyrians in order to protect themselves from their neighbors, and well, they would learn that there is a price to pay for that. They are no longer in control of their own nation.
Yeah, against what God says, don't make nations your friends, your allies.
So now, as we'll learn, all of these things were warned against.
Yep.
When we go through Isaiah, we'll see that Isaiah actually had warned against these things, saying, "Don't do this." In fact, one of the greatest prophecies that there are of the Messiah comes out of this encounter, where God basically says to Ahaz, "Don't do this. I will give you victory. Just don't do this, and you can ask me for anything, and I will show you that I will be with you. Don't do this." And so Ahaz says, "Oh no, I couldn't possibly make any demands of God." And so a promise is made. He says, "I tell you what, to show you and to prove it to you, a virgin will bear a son and conceive."
7:14, Isaiah.
Yeah.
Now, Ahaz doesn't care. He just goes through with these things anyway, and he kind of seals the fate for them here, as far as them losing control of Judah. Right? So he's not taken over yet, but what you do see is that Tiglath-Pileser jumped at the opportunity, and he goes and he wipes out Syria first.
Yeah.
And he does such a good job, and Ahaz thinks he's so wonderful that when he goes to Damascus, which would be the capital of Syria, not Assyria, Syria, right? And he goes and he sees that the Assyrians have now taken over, and he also goes and checks out what they have, and he sees this wonderful big altar they have. And so he decides to set up a new altar in the temple.
Yeah.
One that will be an exact replica of the pagan altar in Damascus.
Mm-hmm.
And so out with the old and in with the new. And he removes the furnishings that have been there since the temple was built.
Yeah.
And he sets them aside, and even all the things that were there in order to make it more easy for the king to go and make his sacrifices at the temple, he gets rid of all those things. Basically does a huge remodel.
Mm-hmm.
So
remodel what God designed for him.
Yeah. Not only does he change God's design of how the temple should be set up and used, he starts mixing different kinds of offerings. Each
Right.
one of those offerings was supposed to be done separately and at certain times for certain reasons, and not just all mixed together like a hodgepodge smorgasbord religious service. But Ahaz is just, he's godless, but he has a lot of spirituality or religion, and it's more superstitious. He's grasping at any god or any spiritual help he can get, whether it's under a tree or on top of a hill or
He's hedging his bets.
yeah,
yeah.
yes, he's a polytheist, right? He's basically anything that he thinks might gain him an advantage. And so when he looks at things such as like the beauty of Damascus's altar, he wants that because he thinks that if I have this, it'll give me more
Statue.
more stature, more power, and also he starts to introduce all these things, and he's mixing them into Jerusalem's worship, right? Which doesn't say much as far as the strength of the priesthood at this time either, because the priests go along with it.
Right.
It's kind of like same boat as when the people go to Aaron and give them all their gold and say,
Yeah.
hey, build us a calf, and
Yeah.
Aaron builds the calf,
Mhm.
right?
It says in 2 Chronicles 28, the story of him, it says, he offered sacrifices to the gods of Damascus who had defeated him. For
Yeah.
he thought, since the gods of the kings of Aram have helped them, I will sacrifice to them so that they will help me. But they were his downfall and the downfall of all Israel.
Mhm.
Yes. And this mixing that happens is going to be something that is part of the condemnation that God has as in the book of Isaiah. So when we come to that, that's what it's speaking to is that these things are happening, and there is this blending of pagan worship into the worship life of Jerusalem. All right. Also with this, during the reign of Ahaz, something else is happening as well, because it wasn't just Syria that was an enemy of Judah and the Assyrians. It was also
Yes.
Israel. So let's read about that in chapter 17. So we'll do the same as we did last time. We'll still continue going clockwise around the table. I'll start us out, but we're looking at chapter 17.
In the 12th year of Ahaz the king of Judah, Uzziah the son of Elah became king of Israel in Samaria, and he reigned for 9 years. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord, but not like the kings of Israel who preceded him.
Against him,
I skipped one. I took two.
that's all right. Against him came up Shalmaneser, the king of Assyria. So this is a new king, different king. And Hoshea became his vassal and paid him tribute.
But the king of Assyria found treachery in Hoshea, for he had sent messengers to So, king of Egypt, and offered no tribute to the king of Assyria, as he had done year by year. Therefore the king of Assyria shut him up and bound him in prison.
The king of Assyria invaded all the land and came to Samaria, and for 3 years he besieged it.
In the 9th year of Hosea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away to Assyria and placed them in the Hala, I guess that's Hala, and by the harbor and the river of Goshen and the cities of the Medes.
All this took place because the Israelites had sinned against the Lord their God, who had brought them up out of Egypt from under the power of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. They worshipped other gods.
And walked in the customs of the nations whom the Lord drove out before the people of Israel, and in the customs that the king of Israel had practiced.
The Israelites secretly did things against the Lord that their God were not right. From watchtower to fortified cities, they built themselves high places in all their towns.
They set up for themselves pillars and asherim on every high hill and under every green tree.
And there they made offerings on all the high places, as the nations did whom the Lord carried away before them. And they did wicked things, provoking the Lord to anger.
And they served idols, of which the Lord had said to them, "You shall not do this."
Yet the Lord testified against Israel and against Judea by all of his prophets, namely every seer, saying, Turn from your evil ways and keep my commandments and my statutes according to all of the law which I commanded your fathers and which I sent to you by my servants and the prophets.
But they would not listen and were as stiff-necked as their fathers, who did not trust in the Lord their God.
They despised his statutes and his covenant that he had made with their fathers, and the warnings that he gave them. They went after false idols and became false. And they followed the nations that were around them, concerning whom the Lord had commanded them that they should not do like them.
They forsook all the commands of the Lord their God and made for themselves 2 idols, cast in the shape of calves, and an Asherah pole. They bowed down to the starry hosts, and they worshipped Baal.
And they burned their sons and their daughters as offerings, and used divination and omens, and sold themselves to do evil in the sight of the Lord, provoking him to anger.
Therefore the Lord was very angry with Israel, and removed them out of his sight. None was left but the tribe of Judah only.
Judah also, Judah also did not keep the commandments of the Lord their God, but walk in the customs that Israel had introduced. Verse 20.
20?
20. Mm-hmm.
We jumped that fast. Okay. You speak of having counsel and strength for war,
hold on.
but they are vain words.
Hold
and
on, Tony, you're on the wrong
Do
one.
you
Yeah.
trust?
Chapter 17.
Gotcha. Ah, you turned 2 pages. Okay.
Oh,
Well, that happens.
they so thin.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so where are we? 17. I have to go
Wait,
back.
still
Verse
one.
20.
Chapter 17, verse 20.
Okay. Oh, here's 17.
They're still tucked
Yeah,
together.
you still got a couple pages there.
There we go.
Now, okay.
Yeah.
Just you got into 17 should be here somewhere.
Well, it is, and that's, wait a minute, that's still too many 2 pages, isn't it?
17:20.
No.
There we go.
17, yeah, 20, yeah.
And the Lord rejected all the descendants of Israel, afflicted them, and delivered them into the hands of the plunderers, until he had cast them from his sight.
When he tore Israel away from the house of David, they made Jeroboam son of Nebat their king. Jeroboam enticed Israel away from following the Lord and caused them to commit a great sin.
The people of Israel walked in all the sins that Jeroboam did. They did not depart from them.
Until the Lord removed them from his presence, as he had warned, though all his servants, the prophets, through all his servants and the prophets. So the people of Israel were taken from their homeland into exile in Assyria, and they are still there.
And the king of Assyria brought people from Babylon, Cutha, Ava, Hamath, and Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the people of Israel. And they took possession of Samaria, and lived in its cities.
And at the beginning of their dwelling there, they did not fear the Lord. Therefore the Lord sent lions among them, which killed some of them.
So the king of Assyria was told, the nations that you have carried away and placed in the city of Samaria do not know the law of the God of the land. Therefore he sent lions among them, and behold, they are killing them, because they do not know the law of the God of the land.
The king of Assyria commanded, saying, Send there one of the priests whom you brought from there, and let him go and dwell there, and let him teach them the rituals of God of the land.
Nevertheless, each national group made its own gods in the several towns where they settled, and set them up in the shrines the people of Samaria had made at the high places.
30. We skip one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, did I skip one?
That's all right. So basically, what it is he went there and he lived in Bethel and taught them
Oh,
how to
I'm
worship.
sorry.
You're okay. Verse 30?
I'm looking for 30. Hang on a minute. Oh. The men of Babylon made Succoth-Benoth. The men of Cuth made Nergal. The men of Hamath made Ashima.
And the Avites made Nibaz and Tartak, and the Sepharvites burned their children in the fire and sacrificed to Adramelech and Amalmelech, the gods of Sepharvaim.
Don't you love some of these? I personally like Nurgle. I like Nurgle. They also feared the Lord and appointed from them among themselves all sorts of people as priests of high places, who sacrificed for them in the shrines of the high places.
So they feared the Lord, but also served their own gods, after the manner of the nations from among whom they had been carried away.
To this day they do according to the former manner. They do not fear the Lord, and they do not follow the statutes or the rules of the Lord or the commandments that the Lord commanded the children of Jacob, whom he had named Israel.
With whom did the Lord have made a covenant and charged them, saying, You shall not fear other gods, nor bow down to them, nor serve them, nor sacrifice to them.
But the Lord who brought you up out of Egypt with mighty power and outstretched arm is the one you must worship. To him you shall bow down, and to him offer sacrifices.
And the statutes and the rules and the law and the commandment that he wrote for you, you shall always be careful to do. You shall not fear other gods.
Do not forget the covenant I have made with you, and do not worship other gods.
But you shall fear the Lord your God, and he will deliver you out of the hand of all your enemies.
However, they would not listen, but they did according to their former manner.
So those nations feared the Lord, and also served their carved images. Their children did likewise, and their children's children, as their fathers did, so they do to this day.
Now it came to pass.
Hold on.
in the third year of-
Let's stop there.
We're stopping there. We're
Oh,
stopping.
yeah, we're gonna stop
stopping
there.
it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So at the same time as Judah became a vassal state, you also have that, and they defeated the Assyrians defeated Syria. You also had that Israel also became a vassal state, or one who pays tribute or protection money to the Assyrians.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to give you money every year as long as you don't come and beat us up. Right? That's basically what it is. So give us your milk money, or we'll punch you in the nose.
Yeah.
Okay? Well, until Israel decided that they weren't going to give that milk money. And the big bully came in and cleaned them out.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this is both because they were messing with someone more powerful than they are, but also this is a part of God's judgment.
Yeah.
And Scripture is very clear that this is part of the judgment. This is the judgment that's been waiting for them ever since they rebelled against the king and set up their own and divided the kingdom, set up their own government, and along with it, they found themselves not wanting to return to the southern kingdom to worship the temple, so they started adopting pagan practices. And they were doing the exact same things as those that were supposed to be cast out of the promised land, including the murdering of their own children. And I know we keep on focusing on that, but that's a pretty big thing. When you're
Very
killing
big.
your own
No,
kids,
you're right.
there is
right.
nothing worse than that.
And why did they do that? Did they gain something by it?
No, they thought they would.
Well, they thought they would.
Oh,
Thought they would please their God.
Yeah,
it didn't happen.
No.
right. So the Assyrians come in, and they defeat them, and they actually they exile
Mm-hmm.
the Israelites from their land. These are the 10 lost tribes of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
They're lost because they were removed from the land and moved into other places where they just kind of dissolved into the nations.
And contrary to some theories, they're not the Native Americans. Some
No.
theories even held by other religions.
Yeah, the Mormons are wrong.
Yes.
They did not move to North America. They simply we're told where they went. We're
Yeah.
told the cities that they were distributed to, and how they just kind of mixed in with the peoples there. Okay. It's also that you have the Assyrians doing something else that was kind of intelligent on their part. They go, oh well, we got all this land. We're going to move someone else in.
Mm-hmm.
And they did. It didn't go so well for them. What happened to the people who moved into these lands?
To the ones that moved in,
Yeah, the ones that moved in.
well, they tried to bring their own gods with them for one thing, but they sort of mixed with the remaining Jews that were partly there and became the Samaritans.
Well, we're getting to that, but there's something else that happens. But before that, what? How did they end up mixing their religions? So what happened first?
They mixed their religion with the little bit of Hebrewism that they knew, or that they discovered.
There was a
Hebrew.
wildlife problem.
There was a wildlife problem.
Yeah, lions,
God sent
Kitty cats.
lions. Yeah.
kitty cats.
And it must have been pretty bad, because word gets back to the Assyrian king that this is obviously
Against God, killing them.
God
off.
is sending these because
Yeah.
there are just so many people dying to lions,
Yeah.
right? I mean, granted, lions are not something you want to mess with, but when it comes to the king's attention of, perhaps this is a plague of lions, and it's like, we got to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting that they come to that conclusion,
Well,
that it must be the God of the land that's sending the lions,
Yeah.
because they're not pleasing the God of the land.
Well, and a broken clock is right twice a day, and they're right. It is because these were people who were not meant to be in this land.
Yeah.
They were not meant to be in that land.
Very good food for the lions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lions were well fed. Okay, so what was the solution that the king of Assyria had?
Send a priest.
Send somebody to teach them.
Let's
All right,
take one of their priests and put them back.
what's the problem with this?
Disobeying God, I guess.
Well, first of all, they were not the authorized priests.
Okay, so these were not authorized priests. Okay, these were the same ones that had a mixed religion.
Yeah.
These were the same ones that were part of that judgment.
Yeah.
But it was that they came back and they at least acknowledged God in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
They also kept all their idols, including Nurgle. But it so he was one of the idols, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But you have this mixed worship, and so Paul's right when he was saying that these became what we would refer to in the New Testament as the Samaritans or Samaritans.
The Good Samaritans.
Yeah. Well, you have the Good Samaritan, right? And the reason why it's called the Good Samaritan is because most Jews would say, "Is there such a thing?"
Yeah.
Right? There is no Good Samaritan in their opinion. And the reason for it is because they are the descendants of these people who came in.
Yeah. They're not a true blue blood Jew.
No, and even with it, they may have some of the heritage, but they don't have any of the religious background.
Yeah.
Right? They worship as the pagans do. They were foreigners who came in and were settled into this land. They shouldn't be there in the first place, and that's the way the Jews saw the Samaritans.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The reason why they didn't like them is because they weren't supposed to be there.
Mhm.
these aren't just your cousin Eddie that you don't want over at Christmas dinner. This is these are ones who kind of make their claim to the heritage, but have no place there at all.
Yeah.
And so you would have this as being a lasting problem. Okay, and so all you had left was Judah in the south. Now keep in mind, Judah had already absorbed Benjamin,
Yeah.
so that's why they say that all that's left is Judah. Okay, but even so, we're told that, and things aren't much better in Judah.
Yeah.
They're doing the exact same things, just not to the same degree. Okay? All right. We got a little bit of time yet. So we got one more king that we need to address.
Yeah.
We're going to try to get through him pretty quick. Think we can do it in 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. All right, so let's look at chapter 18.
Yeah. Yep.
Manage.
So now we just saw what happened when Israel stopped paying their tribute.
They were wiped out,
They
really.
were wiped out. Okay, keep that in mind, because chapter 18 we're going to start with Judah decides to do the same thing. Okay. All right. I'll start us out. We'll go around the table clockwise. In the 3rd year of Hoshea, son of Elah, king of Israel, Hezekiah, the son of Ahaz, king of Judah, began to reign.
He was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Abi, the daughter of Zechariah.
And he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, according to all that David his father had done. Verse 4.
He removed the high places and broke the sacred pillars, cut down the wooden images and broke them to pieces. The bronze serpent and the Moses had made, for until those days when the children of Israel burned incense to it and called it Neshushotan.
Hezekiah trusted in the Lord, the God of Israel. There was no one like him among all the kings of Judah, either before him or after him.
For he held fast to the Lord. He did not depart from following him, but kept the commandments that the Lord commanded Moses.
And the Lord was with him. He was successful in whatever he undertook. He rebelled against the king of Assyria and did not serve him.
He struck down the Philistines as far as Gaza and its territory, from the watchtower to fortified city.
In the 4th year of King Hezekiah, which was the 7th year of Hoshea son of Elah, king of Israel, Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, came up against Samaria and besieged it.
And at the end of 3 years he took it. And the 6th year of Hezekiah, which was the 9th year of Hosea, king of Israel, Samaria was taken. Verse 11.
One more page.
Whoops.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Update.
That's too many pages, I think.
Well, as he's finding his place, I'm just going to note here that we're already referring to it as Samaria, but we're actually talking about Israel here,
Okay.
right? So it becomes known as Samaria, but when he's saying that it besieged it, that's still Judah, or sorry, not
Okay.
it's Israel,
Yeah.
not Judah. Okay, that's what we're talking about here. But you got the name shift going on already.
Bless you.
Thank you.
And what verse are we at?
9.
9.
No, we're on 11.
We're on 11?
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah.
Is it me?
Yes.
Then the king of Assyria carried Israel away captive to Assyria and put them in Halal and by the harbor, the river of Gozan, and the cities of the Medes.
Mm-hmm.
This happened because they had not obeyed the Lord their God, but had violated his covenant, all that Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded. They neither listened to the commands nor carried them out.
In the 14th year of King Hezekiah, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, came up against all the fortified cities of Judah and took them.
So Hezekiah, king of Judah, sent this message to the king of Assyria at Lachish. I have done wrong, withdraw from me, and I will pay whatever you demand of me. The king of Assyria exacted from Hezekiah, king of Judah, 300 talents of silver and 30 talents of gold.
And Hezekiah gave him all the silver that was found in the house of the Lord, and in the treasuries of the king's house.
At that time Hezekiah stripped the gold from the doors of the temple of the Lord, and from the doorpost that Hezekiah king of Judah had overlaid, and gave it to the king of Assyria.
And the king of Assyria sent the Tartan, the Rabsaris, and the Rabshakeh with a great army from Laos to King Hezekiah at Jerusalem. And they went up and came to Jerusalem. When they arrived, they came and stood by the conduit of the upper pool, which is on the highway to the washer's field. 18. Verse 18.
And when they had called to the king Eliakim, the son of Hilling, king Eliakim, the son of Hilakli, who was over the household, and Sheba, the scribe, and the Joah, and the son of Asaph, and the recorder, came out to them.
The field commander said to them, Tell Hezekiah, this is what the great king, the king of Assyria, says. On what are you basing this confidence of yours?
Do you think that mere words are strategy and power for war? And whom do you now trust that you have rebelled against me?
Look now, you are depending on Egypt, that splintered reed of a staff, which pierces a man's hand and wounds him if he leans on it. Such is Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to all who depend on him.
But if you say to me, we trust in the Lord our God, is it not he whose high places and altars Hezekiah has removed, saying to Judah and to Jerusalem, you shall worship before this altar in Jerusalem?
Come now, make a wager with my master the king of Assyria. I will give you 2,000 horses if you are able on your part to set riders on them.
How then can you repulse a single captain among the least of my master's servants when you trust in Egypt for chariots and for horsemen? 25.
Have I now come up without the Lord against this place to destroy it? The Lord said to me, Go up against this land and destroy it.
Then Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, and Shebna and Joah said to the field commander, Please speak to your servants in Aramaic, since we understand it. Don't speak to us in Hebrew, in the hearing of the people on the wall.
But the Rabshakeh said to them, Has my master sent me to speak these words to your master and to you, and not to the men sitting on the wall, who are doomed with you to eat their own dung and to drink their own urine?
Then the commander stood and called out in Hebrew, Hear the word of the great king, the king of Assyria.
Thus says the king, Do not let Hezekiah deceive you, for he will not be able to deliver you out of my hand.
Do not let Hezekiah make you trust in the Lord by saying, The Lord will surely deliver us, and the city will not be given into the hand of the king of Assyria.
Do not listen to Hezekiah, for thus says the king of Assyria, Make your peace with me, and come out to me. Then each of you will eat of his own vine, and each one of his own fig tree, and each one will drink the water of his own cistern.
Until I come and take you away to the land like your own land, a land of grain and a new vine, and a land of bread and vineyards, a land of olive groves and honey, that you may live and not die. But do not listen to the Heslabas, lest they persuade you, saying, the Lord will deliver us.
Has the God of any nation ever delivered his land from the hand of the king of Assyria?
Where are the gods of Hamath and Arpad? Where are the gods of Sepharvaim, Hena, and Iva? Have they delivered Samaria out of my hand?
Who are all the gods of these countries has been able to save the land from me? How then can the Lord deliver Jerusalem from my hand?
But the people were silent, and answered him not a word. For the king's command was, do not answer him.
Then Elakam, the son of Hilkiah, who was over the household, and Shebna the secretary, and Joah the son of Asaph, the recorder, came to Hezekiah with their clothes torn, and told him the words of the Rabshakeh.
All right. Let's catch up here a little bit to make sure we're on the same page here. So, what kind of a king is King Hezekiah?
Good.
What makes him good?
First of all, he listened to the word of the Lord.
All right. So he listens to the word of the Lord. In fact, he does what his predecessors would not do.
Yeah, destroys.
He destroys all the pagan altars.
Yeah.
He destroys their worship. He says, no, we will not be doing this anymore. He removes them. Okay? Now, we have here that he also decides that he's not going to be giving in to the Assyrians anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it takes a little while before they respond, but they do respond. Right, so this is a couple years after they've taken Israel and now made it Samaria. That now they're standing outside of the gates of Jerusalem, besieging the city, and they have some of the best trash talk ever. He says, and so much so that the leaders of Judah say, we speak your language, don't speak in our language. We'll understand you, but we don't want our people to hear this.
Yeah.
Right? Because they were quite serious. You are going to die.
Yeah.
We're going to destroy you. And before that, until your walls give out, you're going to be so hungry, you're going to be eating your own dung and drinking your own urine.
Yeah.
That's your future unless you surrender right now. And if you do, you'll have your own vineyards, you'll have all this stuff. Just surrender now, and we won't kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the amazing thing. And this says a lot about what kind of a king Hezekiah was, because he told the people not to answer a word. And they don't. After hearing all of this and knowing that no one has been able to stand up to Assyria,
Mm-hmm.
that they even make a wager with them, saying, hey, we got 200,000 horses here. If you've got enough men to ride them, you win. Which means you don't have the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
We have enough that we can give you 200,000 horses.
Mm-hmm.
What have you got? Okay. All right, let's continue with chapter 19. It's my turn, right?
19.
Yeah, I think it is. Was it my
No,
turn?
I'd stop, so it'd be
Oh.
pause.
Okay. Go ahead, Paul.
As soon as King Hezekiah heard it, he tore his clothes and covered himself with sackcloth, went into the house of the Lord. Chapter 19, verse 2.
Now therefore, O Lord our God, I pray, save us from this hand, that all kingdoms of the earth may know that you are the Lord God, and you alone.
I'm sorry, what
What
verse?
is he reading?
Yeah, I think you jumped. We should be verse 2 of 19.
But the-
There we go.
It should be verse 2, chapter 19.
There you go. Yeah.
All right. Chapter 2?
Or
Verse 2.
Verse 2, yeah.
Verse 2.
Okay. Then he sent Eliakim, who was over the household of Sheba, the scribe and the elders of the priests covered with sackcloth, to Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amos.
Hey, there's Isaiah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we finally got to
Yeah,
Isaiah.
yeah, Isaiah.
Hey.
We finally got him.
They told him, "This is what Hezekiah says. This day is a day of distress and rebuke and disgrace, as when children come to the point of birth, and there is no strength to deliver them."
It may be that the Lord your God heard all the words of the Rabshakeh, whom his master the king of Assyria has sent to mock the living God, and will rebuke the words that the Lord your God has heard. Therefore lift up your prayer for the remnant that is left.
When King Hezekiah's officials came to Isaiah, Isaiah said to them, "Tell your master, this is what the Lord says. Do not be afraid of what you have heard. Those words which the underlings of the king of Assyria has blasphemed me.
Behold, I will put a spirit in him, so that he shall hear a rumor and return to his own land, and I will make him fall by the sword in his own land."
Then Rabshakeh returned and found the king of Assyria fighting against Libnah, for he heard that the king had left Lachish.
Now the king heard concerning Tirhakah, king of Cush. Behold, he has set out to fight against you. So he sent messengers again to Hezekiah, saying,
Thus you shall speak to Hezekiah, king of the Judea, saying, Do not let your God, in whom you trust, deceive you, saying, Jerusalem shall not be given into the hand of the king of Assyria.
Surely you have heard what the kings of Assyria have done to all the countries, destroying them completely. And will you be delivered?
Have the gods of the nations delivered them, the nations that my fathers destroyed, Gozan, Haran, Rezeph, and the people of Eden who were in Telassar?
Where is the king of Hamath, the king of Arpad, the king of the city of Sepharvaim, or of Hena, or of Iva?"
Hezekiah received the letter from the hand of the messengers and read it. And Hezekiah went up to the house of the Lord and spread it before the Lord.
And Hezekiah prayed before the Lord and said, O Lord, the God of Israel, enthroned above the cherubim, you are the God, you alone of all the kingdoms of the earth. You have made heaven and earth.
Incline your ear, O Lord, and hear. Open your eyes, O Lord, and see and hear the words of Sennacherib, which he has sent to mock the living God.
Truly, Lord, the kings of Assyria have laid waste to the nations and their lands.
They have thrown down their gods into the fire and have destroyed them. For they are not gods, but only wood and stone, fashioned by man's hands.
So now, O Lord, O God, our God, save us, please, from his hand, that all the kingdoms of the earth may know that you, O Lord, are God alone.
Then Isaiah, son of Amoz, sent a message to Hezekiah. "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I have heard your prayer coming from Sennacherib, king of Assyria.
This is the word that the Lord spoken concerning him. She despises you, she scorns you, the virgin daughter of Zion. She wags her head behind you, the daughter of Jerusalem.
Whom have you mocked and reviled? Against whom have you raised your voice and lifted your eyes to the heights? Against the Holy One of Israel.
By your messengers you have mocked the Lord, and you have said, with my many chariots I have gone up to the heights of the mountains, to the far recesses of Lebanon. I felled its tallest cedars and its choicest cypress. I entered its furthest lodging place, its most fruitful forest.
23.
24.
I have dug and drunk strange water, and with the soles of my feet I have dried up all the brooks and of the fence.
Have you not heard? Long ago I ordained it. In days of old I planned it. Now I have brought it to pass, that you have turned fortified cities into piles of stone.
While their inhabitants, shorn of strength, are dismayed and confounded, and have become like plants of the field, and like tender grass, like grass on the housetops, blighted before it is grown.
But I know where you stay, and when you come and go, and how you rage against me.
Because you have raged against me, and your complacency has come to my ears, I will put my hook in your nose, and my bit in your mouth, and I will turn you back on the way by which you came.
And this shall be the sign for you. This year eat what grows of itself, and in the second year what springs of the same. Then in the third year sow and reap and plant vineyards, and eat their fruit.
And the surviving remnant of the house of Judah shall again take root downward and bear fruit upward. 31.
Chapter 19.
To find it.
19 verse 31.
For out of Jerusalem shall go the remnant, and those who escape from Mount Zion. The zeal of the Lord of the hosts shall do this.
Therefore, this is what the Lord says concerning the king of Assyria. He will not enter this city or shoot an arrow here. He will not come before it with shield or build a siege ramp against it.
By the way that he came, by the way the same he shall return, and he shall not come into this city, declares the Lord.
I will defend this city and save it, for my sake and for the sake of David, my servant.
And that night the angel of the Lord went out and struck down 185,000 in the camp of the Assyrians. And when people arose early in the morning, behold, these were all dead bodies.
Then Sennacherib, king of Assyria, departed, and went home and lived at Nineveh.
And as he was worshipping in the house of Nisroch his god, Adrammelech and Shalazar his son struck him down with a sword and escaped into the land of Ararat. And Esarhaddon his son reigned in his place.
All right. So God hears the prayer of Hezekiah, and Isaiah foretells that Sennacherib will not enter this city. He will not even raise a sword against it. He won't even build a siege weapon, because the Lord is not going to permit him to do any of these things. Instead, he's going to send him back the way he came. And he does that very thing. God's angel, an angel defeats an entire army in a night.
Yeah.
So this is as far as we're going to go. We're already past time, but this helps us to know that there were good kings and there were bad kings, and right now towards the where we are with Hezekiah, and who listens to Isaiah, who goes to Isaiah and heeds the word of the Lord, and rejoices in God's mercy and trusts in him with his whole heart. And what does he see? He sees that God delivers them.
Yeah.
And that's why there was no king before or after like Hezekiah, because he placed all his trust in the Lord, and he actually did what none others were willing to do.
Did the right thing.
He would remain faithful, and he would lead the people back to faithfulness. And even God here says that there would be a remnant, and there truly would be. Of course, it would in a couple hundred years, then Judah too would fall.
Yeah.
But a remnant would remain,
Yeah.
and it would always remain, and the promise would always remain.
Yeah.
So that's all we have for time for tonight. Our people online are dropping off.
Good night.
All right, but now we have some pretty adequate background to what happens here, and so we can actually start in next time with looking at the prophecies of Isaiah. Okay.
So where is that at?
Well, the book of Isaiah. So we're going
Book of Isaiah.
That's what we're
We're
ultimately
still-
going to be studying. This was
Oh,
just was
okay.
just the
Background.
footnotes
Precursors, yeah.
in preparation. So, any thoughts or comments before we close?
It's good. It's good to have the background, refresh our minds again. What happened?
All right.
Right.
I think archaeology has a part of a stone or something which talks about the accomplishments of Sennacherib,
Yeah.
but it never does talk about that he was killed by his two sons.
No, I don't think so.
No, I don't think it does on that stone.
Let's close with Lord's Prayer.
Ah.
Our Father,
Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Good night, Internet.
Good night,
Good night.
Internet.
And thank you, Pastor.
Stay warm tonight.
Pastor, for next week, is there some way you could research